and things because I've been delaying reading these articles for you lot, people. You know, again, the Athletic are very predictable in that regards, people. But yeah, smash the like button. Let's see. Keep your opinions coming. Let's see exactly what's been said. My screen should be shared with you lot. Arsenal transfers Jorginho and Trossard, not first choices, but needed for title bid, says James McNicholas. Let's see how long this article is. So first, bloody hell, fam. Anyways, back to the top. See what I'm doing for you lot. Back to the top, people. It's fair to say at the start of this transfer window, Arsenal would not have expected their three additions to include a 28-year-old and a 31-year-old. I wouldn't say that, but in line with our project, it is what it is. But the signings of Trossard and Jorginho reflect Arsenal's position. They are more short-term moves with a very short-term goal in mind, the prospect of a Premier League title. Was this the plan? Not really. Arsenal began the window with aspirations of adding Mudryk to their front line. They pivoted to Brighton and Hove Albion midfielder Moises Caicedo. That they failed to land either of their top targets is disappointing for the club, and lessons can surely be learned from how they approach these negotiations. Disappointing, lessons to be learned. Amen. In previous years, they would have responded to missing out by keeping their powder dry, but Arsenal knew that wasn't an option this time. There's too much at stake. Arsenal learned from the lessons of last season when they failed to strengthen in January, and it arguably cost them their place in the top four. Yep. Their prize up for grabs now is even more precious, the title itself. The bottom line is they finished the window with a stronger, deeper squad than they started. That's subjective, but I hear it. The addition of Jorginho has been divisive among Arsenal supporters. A lot of the baggage is attached to recruiting a veteran from Chelsea, especially after the disastrous signing of Willian in 2020. Arteta and Edu cannot put too much weight on fan sentiment. They couldn't, or we'd have had so many rubbish players, really. I mean, sometimes the fans can be right. A lot of the time, the fans have been wrong, really, actually on the gaffer. So let's wait how things work out, people. Having recognized the Caicedo deal was off, they made a swift, pragmatic move for a player they have long admired. It's not a deal that significantly encumbers Arsenal's future plans. The Jorginho fee was widely reported as £12 million, but it can rise to 13 million if Arsenal become PL champions. Should they end up lifting the trophy, they'll be more than happy to part with an extra 1 million. Crucially, it's a short-term contract, 18 months with an option of another year. That relative affordability ensures Arsenal can take a run at long-term targets in the summer, perhaps West Ham's Declan Rice, or even returning for Caicedo. Arsenal feel they have signed a player who offers them quality, experience, and a willing mentality. Jorginho has won the Coppa Italia, the Europa League, the Champions League, the Club World Cup with Italy. He won the Euros in 2020. In 2021, he came third in the Ballon d'Or. There aren't many players with equivalent CVs among the Arsenal squad, and his arrival was greeted with widespread positivity at London Coley. For a young group, he could be a valuable addition. Despite the speed with which the deal came together, there is considerable history between Arteta and Jorginho. In the summer of 2018, Arteta was serving as Pep Guardiola's assistant at Man City. Arteta was one of the biggest supporters of Manchester City's attempts to sign Jorginho from Napoli, arguing that he was a perfect fit for Guardiola's system and could cover the pitch thanks to his tactical awareness. He's almost like a manager on the field, Jorginho, a bit like Odegaard and Granit and Zinchenko, so I can see why you want a big man. City thought they had a deal at 50 million, only for Chelsea to swoop in and gazump them. I mean, Chelsea, even City have walked away from a couple of targets. Jorginho, Cucurella, there's defo a couple more. Jorginho, Cucurella, Fred, Maguire. Some players have done more than others, but it is what it is, people. So, yeah, man. I mean, if Arteta wanted him, he knows how to use him. A year ago, Arteta gave an interview to Spanish newspaper Marca in which he used Jorginho as a reference point for how he saw the number 6 position. At the time, many teams were playing with a double pivot, but City were hoping to sign Rodri to enable them to play with a sole holding midfielder. I do not get into names, but City 6 must understand our game. It's vital, obviously said this at the time. He's the one that makes everyone work, frees those in front, and sets the pace. Our position has changed a lot. There are a few teams that want to play with a single defensive midfielder holding the whole game. That's not really us, whether Partey or Nene are there or not, if I'm completely honest. And people are forgetting there's Europa League, man. I mean, Kroenke is rich, but it doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to do what Chelsea is doing. I mean, it's two very different, rightly or wrongly, what Chelsea are doing as a football club and what we're doing are two very different things. If fans accept that, you'd live a lot easier, really, rightly or wrongly. So, yeah, man. Anyways, in other teams, that role is not as defined, and we are losing the idea of having one who plays there, the Jorginho type that I love. Obviously, in the summer of 2020, recently installed as Arsenal manager, Arteta considered a move to sign Jorginho from Chelsea. At that point, however, Chelsea said he was not for sale. Arsenal instead made a deadline day move to activate the release clause of Thomas Partey. And now in 2023, Arteta has finally got his man. The question is whether at 31, this is still the same player that the Arsenal manager once so admired. We will only find out how wise this signing was when Jorginho takes the field. Given the sense of urgency in the final few days of the window, it's strange to recall that Arsenal began the month of January not necessarily expecting to sign a central midfielder. It was felt that Mohamed El Nene offered adequate support for Partey, so the position was not a priority. The plan was to focus on an attacking addition, namely Mudryk, and address midfield in the summer. Plans changed, which they shouldn't have, because we needed a midfield in the summer, regardless of El Nene and Partey's injuries then, and regardless of what's happening now. But fair enough, you know. The plans changed. In the space of a few days, Arsenal lost Mudryk to Chelsea and now Nene to injury. Suddenly, Arsenal had an unexpected amount of money available to spend and an equally unexpected hole in their squad. Arsenal explored bringing in a premium big-ticket holding midfielder, someone who could not only provide cover for Partey, but ultimately be his successor. This would be a project player, someone who fitted the club's guiding recruitment strategy. The two names at the top of the list were Rice and Caicedo. As we know, Declan Rice is never leaving West Ham anytime soon. Rice already figured prominently in Arsenal's plans for the summer. Unfortunately, with West Ham in a relegation battle, the chances of them allowing their captain to leave mid-season were slim to none. Rice would also have been reluctant to depart at such a crucial moment. So in the penultimate week of the window, Arsenal focused on Caicedo. They received encouragement that he would be eager to move and hoped the deal could be struck for around 75 million. So if we had money to commit 75 million for someone that's played 20 odd times in the league for Brighton, and in Mudryk's case, someone that's played 44 times for Shakhtar, there should be money to do what we need to do in the summer. But for now, it's all irrelevant. The price was high, but not considered overly unreasonable for a 21-year-old Ecuador international who was already a regular at an impressive Premier League side, and he's done well against us. Around the same time, he switched agents and began working with Football Division and Epic Sports. That was seen as a positive for Arsenal, who were already in dialogue with Epic, owing to the club's tentative interest in Real Valladolid's right-back Ivan Fresnadar, one of its clients. Those conversations, which had been focused on the 18-year-old, began to focus on Caicedo. On the 27th of last month, January, Arsenal tabled an opening bid of 60 million for Caicedo, which we were told from the start Brighton are not selling. They did not expect it to be accepted. Chelsea had seen a £55 million bid rejected out of hand, but I hoped it would at least begin negotiation. Arsenal misjudged the situation. Brighton dismissed the offer within minutes and made it clear they had no intention of allowing Caicedo to leave. Having seen the Mudryk saga become so public, Arsenal actively sought to act with discretion in the Caicedo pursuit. Arteta and Edu circled the wagons and tightened the sharing of information. Any hopes this deal might be more straightforward, however, ended later that night when Caicedo's camp of their own I don't know what that is, man. But anyways, Volitian, I don't know what that is, past English, but I don't know what that is, decided to release a statement expressing the player's desire to leave. We all saw that. He's just going to have to get on with it now. Overnight, Brighton took the decision, obviously, to alienate him from the squad and say, until the window's done, you're not playing with us. And now he's back. Brighton's owner and chairman, Tony Bloom, was insistent Caicedo was not going anywhere. For their part, Arsenal still hoped that the professional poker player was simply bluffing. On the 28th of January, in an attempt to find a breakthrough, a call took place between Bloom and Arsenal board member Tim Lewis. The discussions reached a dead end. Brighton were not for moving. Nevertheless, Arsenal resolved to try again. On the 29th of January, they raised their offer to 65 million plus 5 million in potential add-ons, so 70 now. Again, the offer was dismissed. Brighton were perplexed and irritated. Arsenal had not got the message. Their relationship between the clubs, which has been cordial through the negotiations for Ben White and Trossard, had been damaged. I mean, it's been damaged, but who really cares? Obviously, it could harm us, but who really cares? You put the money down in the future, they'll take it. You think everyone's brethren? With it becoming increasingly obvious that an agreement for Caicedo was out of reach, Arsenal regrouped on Monday, the eve of the transfer window. The task now was to find a deal for a midfielder that could be completed in around 36 hours. Rice and Caicedo were not the only midfielders discussed in the course of the window. Martin Zubamendi of Sociedad and Edson Alvarez of Ajax, a player that us and Chelsea were talking about in the summer, were among the names considered. Arsenal were willing to trigger the 60 million release clause for Zubamendi, but the Spain international preferred to remain at Sociedad until the summer. Arsenal had been impressed with Charlie Patino's form at Blackpool, but there were no discussions about bringing him back from his loan prematurely. In the final days of the window, Arsenal were offered midfield players by middlemen and agents. Many of those simply did not meet Arteta's specifications. Jorginho ultimately was the exception. The addition of 22-year-old Jakub Kiwior is more in line with Arsenal's model. They had planned to recruit a left-footed centre-back in the window for some time. Edu made initial contact with Spezia in their camp in December during the World Cup, which shows everything. Before Kiwior's agent was invited to London Coley for further talks. This deal caught many fans and indeed media off guard. Although there had been reports of a confidentiality clause, Arsenal simply entered into a gentleman's agreement with Kiwior's camp to keep things under wraps. So that is something we've been doing. It doesn't always work, but it's worked now. That they managed to do so, especially while recruiting in the transfer crazy media landscape of Italy, is a source of pride for all parties. Deadline day also saw 2 first-team players leave the club. As we know, Cedric's gone to Fulham on loan. Sambi's gone to, Crystal Palace on loan. The decision to let Sambi leave arguably incurs some risk, but ultimately Arsenal chose to respect the player's desire for regular football. No decision has yet been reached on either player's future beyond the summer. As for El Nene, Arsenal are considering activating the 1-year option on his contract rather than releasing him partway through his rehab. Obviously, he's picked up an injury. It's a compliment to Eddie Nketiah's form that a new centre forward to replace Jesus was never under discussion. Arsenal had the option of recalling Balogun from Reims, but it would have incurred a certain financial penalty and was not considered best for the striker's development. Amen. Calculated decisions without emotion, I would say. So yeah, big up the signings of them people. They complement the side. It could be a lot better. It could be a lot worse. I do think there's this piece. Let's see how long this is, people. This is in relation to Caicedo and what's this Brighton journalist, man, Andy Naylor. Arsenal fans have been onto him on social media, but allegedly Moises Caicedo is still a Brighton and Hove Albion player. It was always going to be this way if only Arsenal had listened. Yep. Their targeting of the Ecuador midfielder last month was doomed to failure, yet they plunged on in a vain pursuit, trying to win a game of poker against an actual world-class poker player, Brighton's owner and chairman, Tony Bloom. He's not going to shag you, mate. Calm down, mate. Calm down. Why did the mooted deal not pan out in the way the Premier League leaders who did manage to get Brighton to sell them Trossard? Well, because Trossard wanted to leave. His contract was running down. We're trying to mess around on the last few days for Moises Caicedo. You made it clear the man wasn't going to leave. It is what it is. Apparently, just scrolling through this, people, because I know this is just going to be a wank fest. Brighton have valuations for buying and selling players which are based on Bloom's data-driven model. These numbers are known only to Chief Executive Paul Barber and the man Bloom trusts to run the South Coast club day-to-day on his behalf, and sometimes technical director David Weir, depending on who is leading any negotiations. They are not divulged to anyone else inside or outside the club. A good poker player always keeps their cards close to their chest, and Brighton routinely stick to their guns over these valuations. I mean, big up Brighton for their model, and I have nothing but admiration for what Brighton are doing and have done and what they're aspiring to do. But let's not behave like they're the only club that do that now, really. A further consideration in respect of sales is the circumstances for one have to be right. As a rule, Brighton do not like doing business in the 31 days of January when time is short, panic is in the end, contingency plans are difficult to have in place. Arsenal could have read the room. Trossard aside, their significant recent sales have all taken place in the near 3 months of the summer window when there's more time to get your ducks in row. As you know, Benjamin White, Basuma, Cucurella. Plus, they are pushing to qualify to play in one of Europe's competitions next season, which is also true, and we've said that already. There were background circumstances facing Caicedo's many admirers. Chelsea were the first to test the waters with a bid of 55 million around 2 weeks ago. This was so far below Brighton's valuation that it was rejected out of hand. There was an army of recent Brighton staff now employed at Stamford Bridge, notably their head coach Graham Potter and their director of global talent and transfers Paul Winstonley, who know how their previous employers operate. That cheeky offer may not have had much to do with their ex-Brighton contingent, but Chelsea went away when they were told no and did not come back. So to Arsenal entering the picture last week with a bid 5 million higher than Chelsea's, it's not wise going in too low at the outset of negotiation with Brighton. It doesn't end well. A lot of clubs. City took that route in the summer by bidding 30 million for Cucurella, which was a fair price. The left-back was eventually sold, but to Chelsea instead, in a deal whose final value could rise to more than double that amount. So that's great from City to sticking to their guns and moving on and keeping it moving. That's great to Brighton for sticking to their guns and getting significant profit. I mean, it just feels like this guy's just gassing up the ting a lot, people. Early in the January window, people, Tottenham made a verbal offer of 12 million for Trossard. Obviously, he ended up being sold for 21, rising to 27. Again, this guy's doing too much, man. I'm just trying to skip to the whole of it. You may be wondering why Brighton would not be content with such a handsome profit on a $4 million they paid to sign Caicedo from his homeland at the end of the January window just 2 years ago. Aside from the situation outlined, if they had identified a hidden gem, developed him into a player who's on the watch list of big clubs throughout Europe, and given him a contract until 2025 with an option on the club side of another year, they believe they're fully entitled to want what they regard as a fair fee. That is true. And I hope that they get that. And I hope that Caicedo gets a new deal, really. So, yeah, man, it wouldn't have been good for them as well, people. His agents weren't listening. Arsenal weren't listening. We're just going to have to chew that L, really and truly, if I'm honest with you. So, yeah, he's just, for Brighton, they're just going to have to keep it moving. Caicedo's going to have to keep it moving. I mean, I don't want to hear no more of what he's saying. But for what it's worth, Arsenal are set to go back in for Moises Caicedo and Declan Rice in the summer transfer window as Arteta eyes midfield rebuild. I mean, pardon me, let's just assume that 70 million will be enough for Caicedo, and you need about 70 to 100 for Declan Rice. That's over 100 million for Declan Rice and Caicedo, who have fantastic potential. But being devil's advocate, at the time of being bought, did they instantly improve Arsenal's midfield? Is it possible to get both? Have we really damaged Brighton's relations? And we know for both players, there's an opportunity to get both, one or none, because these are going to be players to go with Zubimendi and Neves and Telemans, anyone that we're linked with, that there's going to be a lot of people interested. So by all means, go after all the players you want. Make sure there's plans in place. But for what it's worth, we're allegedly trying to go and get him. And even that, if you was to bring in both of them people, you know, you'd have, assuming you brought in Declan Rice, Caicedo, you've got Jorginho at least for another year at 31. You've got Granit, you've got Partey, you might have El Nene, and you've got Lokonga. So I do think at least two of them would have to get kind of rubbed out, or one at least. So I'm not too sure if that's even a thing. It's probably one, if anything. I don't think we get either, but it is what it is, people. This Jorginho transfer was an alternative to Moises Caicedo, because Arsenal were ready at any time to do a deal for Moises Caicedo on deadline day, if in the unlikely circumstance that Brighton decided to change their stance, because he has not been for sale throughout the January window. Caicedo was not going to go for any price. Some Arsenal fans are saying they went to 60, they went to 70. Why didn't they go higher to test Brighton's resolve? I'm told whatever Arsenal, or for that matter Chelsea, had bid, Brighton were not going to sell Moises Caicedo in this transfer window. I somewhat believe that, but then I don't really believe that, because every player's got a price. Rightly or wrongly, if you bid 100 million, they'd be crazy not to do it, really. And he said this will then fast forward into the summer. If Caicedo doesn't sign a new contract, we're going to have another saga again. And they have an option of another year, just like Declan Rice. So that strengthens their current club's positions for selling him. Caicedo, Rice, Arsenal are in for both of those, we think, in the summer. I mean, we don't know what's going on there, man. We'll have to see how that develops. Why Arsenal walked away from trusted transfer plan to sign Jorginho. Skip to just show me the bulk of it, please, people. But we know El Nene's injured. We know we failed to get Caicedo. We know Jorginho is sought after by Mikel Arteta. Statistically, he compares well to Caicedo. Per 90 minutes this season, the pair have averaged similar number of tackles, 3.0 for Jorginho, 2.9 for Caicedo. And for interceptions, they both average 1.5. There are concerns about Jorginho's defensive capabilities and mobility, but for Chelsea this season, he's first in ball recoveries and interceptions. Hear that? And he is an upgrade on Lokonga and El Nene. And obviously, Arteta is an admirer of his. And you do obviously have Kiwior who can play in there as well. I mean, I don't think we walked away from Mudryk. You know, Chelsea did the thing. I don't think we necessarily walked away from Caicedo. We were told to F off and stop calling Brighton, really. You know, Lisandro Martinez is a bit different. We had an agreement. Obviously, he's worked with the United gaffer, his current gaffer now. That tipped the balance. And this isn't anything unique to Arsenal. Everyone's getting turfed by players. This is just an industry standard. Rice is likely to be available for 80 million. You'd imagine Rice is more, because it's accepted that Declan Rice is going to be moved on. You'd imagine Rice is probably easier obtainable than Caicedo, although we somewhat have a good relationship with Brighton. Once again, unfortunately, El Nene is out allegedly for the rest of the season. He's had surgery. Arsenal are to, trigger a 1-year option in his contract to help him with the rehab. Some people say forget all of that, but we've never been that sort of club. And when fit, he's an okay squad player. Arsenal may now be the favourites for perfect player after what Chelsea have done. I mean, Chelsea spent 600 million for no reason. You think they're done on Declan Rice? Really? They probably get him and Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez and anyone else, really. And, finally move on to Hudson-Odoi's, the Ruben Loftus-Cheeks and any more of them meaty Cobham youths, really. So this just seems like a think piece, really, and what everybody is saying, really. Agent reveals why Ivan Fresnadal rejected 13 million Arsenal transfer after interest from 30 clubs. Specifically, what did you say, people? He wants to get consistent game time. Obviously, he wants to keep his feet on the ground. He's just been exposed to first team football. Fair enough. There have been around 30 teams interested, but the truth is that he has hardly aroused interest in Spanish football. But in Germany, France, or England, there's been interest. Some because they had a specific need in this market, and others with a vision to the future. But times are what they are. Fresnadal will be at Real Valladolid until the end of the season. We want him to have his feet on the ground, and in other clubs, he was not going to have that continuity he needs now. So playing week in, week out, you're not going to get that right now with our right-back options. The agent opened the door for a big money move in the summer and described Arsenal and Dortmund as two great clubs. Over the weekend, we had already informed Real Valladolid that there was not going to be any offer that he was not going to leave in the winter market. For us, it's not a bad situation. No drama, quite the opposite. Ivan is happy to play for Real Valladolid, to be under the orders of Pochetta, who is the one who has allowed him to enjoy the way he is doing right now. So that's that. Arsenal considered move for Edson Alvarez in the January transfer window, folks, allegedly. And we've tried to look at him before. And did he not make up noise that he didn't get a move to Chelsea last year? So we have to see how that develops. Again, we know we've brought Jorginho. We know there's a lot of excitement for players and stuff. So if they're excited to work with the player, why can't you lot be? What will Jorginho bring to Arsenal and the legacy he leaves at Chelsea? I mean, at this point, we know about the legacy. We know what he could potentially bring. So I'm not going to quite read that. Once again, unfortunately, Onene has suffered a significant knee injury and will be out for an extended period of time. Has not played since January the 9th against Oxford, people. So it's peak right now, really and truly. So, yeah. As you know, yesterday, Sambi Lokonga joined Crystal Palace on loan. We wish the 23-year-old the best of luck. And apparently he's had some things to say, allegedly. It's not easy to leave Arsenal. Well, you did say last summer I was thinking of leaving, but I gave myself one more chance. Because as you can see, they're top of the league. But for me, the most important thing was the confidence of the coach. You've got to give Arteta a reason to give you confidence, really and truly. It's be useful or be useless. And unfortunately, right now, in what Arsenal is doing for now, you're useless. That isn't always going to be the case, but right now you are. And then he said, I had him on the phone and it was a good opportunity to come here to show myself and to help the boys reach their objectives. He said to me, welcome. He's going to push me to be a better player. I'm looking forward to it. I think that was in relation to Patrick Vieira. If you don't improve under Patrick Vieira in midfield, then something's wrong with you. And he went on to say again on Crystal Palace's website, I would like to gain some minutes. I want to go as far as possible with the team. I don't want to say a number, but I will try to push me and the team to do the maximum to reach the top. I don't want to speak about ranking. I just think we need to take it game by game, try to win each game, and that's how we will do something great. Today, I've been a lot in the car moving from left to right, but I'm fully fit. I'm ready to start if needed on Saturday in the game against Manchester United. He then said, I can't forget that. I need to mention that there are fans always pushing the team, and it's good to play at home and to know that the fans are behind you. I'll try to be myself. I'll try to bring the ball forward. Right. I will try to bring the ball forward. Big up Lokonga. I will try to make the job easy for my partners. I'm looking forward to connecting with players in the space behind the defense. Bro, I want to. So are you going to play as an 8? Fair enough. I want to be myself and bring something new to the team, which they don't have. I can't wait to meet the Palace fans. Hopefully, you'll be behind us for the rest of the season. Fair enough. And once again, Cedric has joined Fulham on loan. Pick him up. Hopefully, he has a good spell there. Marquinhos has gone to Norwich. Obviously, Omar Rekic has joined Wigan on loan, people. As well, and will spend time in the Championship. Salahuddin has been recalled from Hull, hasn't made an appearance after he picked up a groin knock. They had an option to make him permanent. Billy Vinga and Kiddo Taylor-Hart have joined Derby County in League One on loan, people. Hopefully they get some first-team football. You know, young Nathan Butler-Oyedeji has joined Accrington Stanley in League One on loan. Hopefully the 20-year-old also has a good loan. So it's nice to see that. Tyler Ferran has gone to League Two and joined Hartlepool on loan, people. So, yeah, man, I think that seems to be everything in relation to what the current tabloids and all that jazz is saying, folks. So yeah, what are you guys saying in that regard? That was a long one. Yeah, let me scroll the way to the top. According to ESPN, La Liga is accusing English Premier League of cheating on spending $100 billion on this transfer window. They're just mad that they ain't got peas, bro. The market has been inflated and no club can compete with them on pricing. There's no club that can spend 500 million in 6 months. No, but you can, you can still find players that you need. Myth of a word. How do you feel about Marquinhos joining Norwich? Great, because, you spent the 6 months adapting to life in England on and off the field. Go and show why you should be used for Mikel Arteta in the squad next season. Or if not, can we turn that 3 million into 20? He is better than nothing. Winter market is difficult, so I think we've done okay. Not 100% happy with Jorginho, but it's depth what we need. Time to let El Nene and Holding leave. Caicedo will delete his post. So he's just going to get onto it, bro. Like, I'm not being funny. Players getting disillusioned and not getting moves or something that's happened, bro. Patrick Vieira's an Arsenal legend. But every week, you know, he wanted to leave or wanted more money and things like that. He was always linked with Madrid and Man United and that. Gerrard, the prodigal son of Liverpool, tried to snake it and go Chelsea. Lampard wanted to cut out. And there's been many a time of many a player. Jesus back on the pitch. He just posted. Let's take our time, man. Let's take our time, man. Let's take our time. What's your thoughts on Arsenal paying for Stan Kroenke? I don't know about any of that, man. Jesus just posted him back on the pitch after 8 weeks. Lovely. Seen some Brighton reporters saying we messed up the relationship with them regardless of... I mean, bro, we're not brethren, innit? Like, we want your players. You're not our brethren. That's why you sell for big money. Is what it is. It just makes it a bit tougher. Just keep doing it, man. Like, what? I'm sorry, but big up Brighton. But who cares? Like, you're still, if we bid an offer that you feel is acceptable, you're still going to accept it as well as encouraging others. You didn't do us no favors. You know, we haven't done you no favors. We're not friends. Forget all of this. DG, does Jesus walk back into the team for you? When fit, yes, but to be fair, Eddie doesn't deserve to be dropped. But I'm sorry, Jesus. I missed the guy in it, so he needs to get back here in it, really and truly. I can see us getting Zubimendi in the summer instead of Rice. Obviously, Eddie won't be able to get Rice, so we'll go for Zubimendi, who's also drawing interest from other clubs, man. It's not just going to be that simple. The season has been a mazza for me, DJ. I checked out after last year and we've been on smoke this year. It's early, but I'm confident we'll finish top 3 now. If we get the league, I'm gassed, but top 3 is it. As long as we're in the Champions League, it's calm, man. What else have we got? Rice will go to Chelsea. They outbid us again. Then go and find the Spanish Declan Rice, the Colombian Declan Rice, the English Declan Rice, who, you know, he's English as well in another division. Just go and find other players that fit the remit of the skill set and the profile player that Declan Rice has. It might be more, it might be less. We tried only go so far. We're not here to be people's friends, man. So it is what it is, man. But yeah, again, I hope the young boys on loan, Lokonga and Marquinhos, can do their thing. Shout out Top Blue in the cup. Less than an hour playing FM, bro. People forgetting Europa as well. When we're playing every Thursday, Sunday again, he will be a solid rotation for Xhaka and Partey. Hopefully, Partey will stay fit in Jesus' name. But hey, let's see, man. Partey hides Xhaka's weaknesses, but if Partey's hurt, who's going to hide Jorginho's? Not a clue, but at the same time, I think the team's collective system hides Xhaka's. Yeah, crazy spending doesn't mean success. I think Sambi has an opportunity to play and get groomed by one of the best midfielders of the Prem era. It's a fact, really. Leaving Arsenal is okay for game time, but going to Chelsea was not a good move. Any youngster from Hayden I support, so I hope he reaches his potential. I hear that. Respectfully, I haven't seen Kiwior play DM, and I doubt he can emulate whatever Partey is doing for us. I hear that. Stan Kroenke had to pay 571 million USD because the NFL fined him. That's why you lowballed every target in the window. When did everyone become accountants or know personally? I mean, you say we lowballed. Does that offer that we paid for Mudryk look like lowballing? Regardless of what they wanted, does the offer for Caicedo look like we lowballed? But I'll leave it to you. You know a bit more than me, man. None of this would have been an issue if Edu came back with Gomares from Brazil like he was supposed to. Now, yeah, I mean, when you was trying to swap Matteo Guendouzi and money for Gomares, yeah, man, it would have been calm still. It would have been calm, but it is what it is, man. If I'm completely honest, shout out to my Bayesians, man.